You ever notice how tabletop sports gaming shelves can feel like the same four teams playing an endless series? Baseball, football, basketball, hockey. And look, I love the Big Four. I play the Big Four. I will happily spend a weekend living in the Big Four. But today, they're getting benched because there's a whole world of sports out there that don't get nearly enough tabletop love, even though they're loaded with drama, momentum swings, and how did that just happen moments. I'm talking about the kind of sports you don't see in every game store, the kind where one frame, one point, or one sudden run can flip everything. Maybe you're thinking something like bowling. Maybe you're thinking something like horse racing. Yeah, we're going there. So if you're ready, take a break from the usual suspects. I've got 10 picks from my own collection that prove that these sports belong on the table. This is the Tabletop SportCast. Welcome back to the Tabletop SportCast, the show where we talk tabletop sports gaming through interviews, game chats, and project planning, all with the goal of getting more great sports to the table. Today's episode is my top 10 underrated sports games, and underrated means two things. First, the sport doesn't get enough love in tabletop gaming, and second, the game, the actual game we're going to talk about, deserves a bigger audience than it gets. One more rule, we're staying out of the Big Four. No baseball, football, basketball, or hockey, because those sports already have plenty of attention. Also, I'm only talking about games I actually own, because I'm not here to read a catalog to you. This is shelf-to-table stuff. But before we jump into the countdown, let's do a quick around the table. 3 fast things, a look back at my last episode, my weekly highlight, and a few quick hits from around the hobby. Last episode, we had a chance to sit down with Andy Sexton and talk all about co-ops. We are right now, a quick update on some of the co-ops that Andy is running. The 1981-82 NHL project, we wrapped up the regular season. We are getting ready to kick off the playoffs. So he has started up the process there. Everybody's going to start selecting their games. I got the last pick, which isn't a bad place to be. It'll give me a chance to see which series are looking interesting after 1 or 2 games and be able to choose from there, and then probably be able to have a fast follower so I could grab a completely different series and jump into that. So I'll be able to, I think, if he's doing it round robin style, be able to grab a couple of quick games. Otherwise, I'm probably looking at getting one in and then maybe setting up for like a pretty critical game at the end of the first round for my second game if I'm going to pick last both times around. So that'll be interesting to see. But great conversation with Andy. I appreciate all his time to sit down and talk about co-ops. My weekly highlight comes from Grid Zone. It was the American Grid Zone League kickoff weekend. I completed all 6 games, and the final game saw Norfolk, who just got promoted to the Champions League, holding on to a late lead, but Orlando coming from behind. Orlando was able to score to make it an 18-17 game. There was only a couple of plays left, so Norfolk had an opportunity to run the clock out, but they got an incomplete pass on their first one. They went for a deep bomb and came up empty, and that gave Orlando a chance to come from behind, and they did. They scored 6 points on their final drive, used up all the time on the clock, 20 final. And so week 1 of the American Grid Zone League Season 5 is in the books. Next up, we're going to talk 3 quick hits from around the hobby and a couple of quick hits from what's being offered by a couple of our different game companies, starting with 49 Sports Games. Grant Fines is offering a set to play the Winter Olympics, the upcoming Winter Olympics. He has rated the teams that will be taking part in the Milano Games. So if you want to do like a pre-play or play along with the Olympic hockey, head on over to 49 Sports Games and pick up that set. It looks really cool. He's done a nice job putting together the team sheets. So highly recommended if that's something that you feel like you want to play along with. Second is we got recently updates in a couple of places for existing games, both football games. First is season ticket football, and we got some quick updates there on the rules. Just a couple of tweaks. So if you are somebody who has purchased a game, you probably got an email from Clay Dresslock and a season ticket football with just some updated rules and things like that. I'm looking forward to trying out the new single play call sheet. I forget what he calls it exactly, but I used that the last time out. Really liking the fact that I can do all the plays on one sheet. So I figure he'll continue to iterate through that as he learns from it, but I found it worked really well. So I'll be interested to see what it looks like as he's made some improvements there. There was also some recent updates that came out of Fast Drive Football, some quick updates to the rules. We'll hear more about those in a future episode, but if you are a purchaser of Fast Drive Football, you probably got some emails regarding some updates there as well. Lastly, if you are on the Stone Mountain Press Discord channel, we have some latest updates on the new baseball game that Gary Brown is working on, and he offered up a couple of things. If you are interested in doing some play testing, you can head on over there to check out the latest updates on his baseball game. So I highly recommend that. He is doing most of his publications on that Discord channel. So if you're looking for stuff from Stone Mountain Press, I would highly recommend getting engaged in the Discord channel that he has. It's not really doing Facebook as much anymore, so head on over to Discord if you want to see the latest from Stone Mountain Press. And like I said, there are some cool updates regarding the baseball game that hopefully will be out sometime in the near future. All right, that's our quick around the table. Now it's time to bench the usual suspects and get into it. Let's start the countdown at number 10. At number 10, we have the sport of bowling, and the game that's representing bowling this time around is Bolarama by Play Games. Bowling is everywhere in real life, but tabletop bowling barely gets the spotlight. What does a great bowling game need to do? Well, it needs to capture that frame-by-frame tension, and when one open frame can really undo your whole night. This game, Bolarama, is perfect for like that weeknight sports game energy. It's quick, it's easily approachable, and it has some drama in the small moments. I really like the fact that even though you have some actual professional season sets, and a lot of the games we're going to focus on tonight are going to be focused on those that offer us the opportunity to replay the actual sports on our tabletop. But you're also going to notice that a number of these games also give us the opportunity, not all of them, but some of them give us the opportunity to also do our own thing. And bowling is one of those sports that I feel like needs to be able to do your own thing because it's as much of a recreational activity as it is like on the outskirts a professional sport. So there are a few different season sets where you can play with professional bowlers. Last year I did a small project around 1980. I think it's called the PBA. I'm not a huge bowling expert here, but I think the 1980 PBA. And I replayed the Long Island Open, right? I played like a short little tournament to decide who my final bowlers would be. And I think I did, like they like to do in theirs, a kind of bracketed format where you take like your final 5 or so, and 4 plays 5, and then the winner plays 3, and then the winner plays 2. And you have to kind of go up the ladder to win the tournament. So I did that, and I thought that was a lot of fun. But I've also had a lot of fun just, taking this game out and rolling a game or two with my daughter and just like having fun where we can, hedge it a little bit where I can take somebody who's maybe got a little less of a scoring average than she does, and I can, give her a little bit of an edge there. Or you can play where everybody plays straight up and everybody just plays for the same average and almost do it like a league night bowling, right? Where everybody's just rolling. It works both ways. And I think that's what a really good game design should be able to do, is give you the opportunity to not just do a simulation, but also play a little bit of a game too. So Bolarama makes our list at number 10, representing the sport of bowling. And if bowling is about controlling little moments, then our number 9 game is about surviving 10 moments without falling apart. That's right. We're talking track and field, and specifically Decathlon by Sports Illustrated. Game's no longer in print, but I think this is still one of my favorite track and field games, really because it's recreating track and field. And Decathlon, the event of Decathlon, is the ultimate complete athlete sport. You've got to be versatile, you have to be consistent, and you have to figure out how to manage through those disastrous moments that are bound to take place. So why does this game work? Multi-event formats are naturally dramatic, right? Because it's not over in a split second like the 100-meter dash. This is about managing your strengths against your weaknesses and doing a pretty consistent job across all of them. You have to show up in your big moments when you know it's like your event to really showcase. And you have to do well enough in your poorer events to at least stay competitive. And every event changes the math of who's actually ahead. Anybody who loves variety and that kind of event-to-event tension and the story arcs that it builds, this game's for you. Now, I personally love playing the version that Tom McHugh has built upon the initial original game of Decathlon, and that's his Century Edition rules. I think it brings a lot more drama, a little bit better strategy into how you want to manage through your different events. He's done a better job of capturing like the fatigue factor throughout the day or the 2 days, as well as giving you a more realistic approach to how to manage through injuries. So highly recommend the Century League edition. And he has also rated female athletes. So you have a heptathlon version of the game that you can also play. So that's Decathlon by Sports Illustrated, with the recent updates by Tom McHugh to really kind of bring the game together. Now, from 10 events, let's go to one of the fastest, most chaotic sports you can put on a tabletop. That's right. At number 8, we're going to talk about the sport of box lacrosse, and featured in Lacrosse Blast Express by Play Games. Box lacrosse, if you're not familiar, it's the indoor, high action, high scoring, think arena football energy with constant pressure. And of course, we're featuring in box lacrosse and Lacrosse Blast Express the National Lacrosse League. They've kept this style alive as this kind of steady, passionate secondary pro league for quite a few years now. They're working on like 20 plus years and really going back as far as like the mid 70s with the NLL. I chose the Express game here because I think the Express engine for this particular game really leans into the pace, and it creates tons of one-on-one matchups where the offense and the defense both have to show up in big spots. And if you're the type of person who really likes big momentum swings and games that kind of stay in that highlight mode, then this one's going to hit really home for you. There is the full play version, and I still think the full play version works really well too. I just happen to like the pacing a little bit better, and probably based, as I've said in the past, on my interest level in the sport, which isn't super high. The Express game really works well for me in that sense. It's built off the same blast engine that they use for Hockey Blast and Hockey Blast Express. So if you're familiar with that game or the soccer version, you're going to get the same game here. You just have some slightly different tweaks that make the scoring work the way it does in box lacrosse, which is multiple times higher than it is in hockey. If you think about hockey, you're probably talking like 6 to 10 goals per game, depending on the season you're playing with. Well, in box lacrosse, you're probably talking more 10 to 20 goals or more based on the season that you're playing with there. So number 8, box lacrosse, being represented here by Lacrosse Blast Express by Play Games. And speaking of sports where momentum flips fast, number 7 is chaos in a completely different way. We're talking horse racing, and I'm talking about Off the Board Horse Racing by Eric Simon. Horse racing is pure cinema. It's all about position, the timing, the traffic, and then that stretch run where everything changes in seconds. And why it works for off-the-board horse racing is it does have that feel of a race unfolding and not just resolving the results. You get a little bit of that change of positioning. You get the idea of the horse that just can grab the lead and never give it up, those really dominant horses. Off-the-board horse racing also works because in the seasons that he has rated, Eric has rated every horse. You're getting hundreds of horses to choose from to be able to replay your season. So if you want to do the Derby races, the Triple Crown, if you want to do the Derby prep races, if you want to just do some local races at your track, you'll be able to do that. He's rated the horses, he's rated the jockeys. You get a complete catalog for the seasons that he has rated. So this game is really great for those players who love the narrative and the dramatic finishes, especially when you have like that full field running. Horse racing for itself, it's a widely popular sport. It's probably waned in popularity over the years, but I think for some of us that are in a certain age group, the 70s, the 80s, highlight just some of the top moments in the history of horse racing. But you can also get this sense of history by following horse racing because it really has been around for like almost 150 years now. And it can help, like some other sports, like baseball. I think horse racing helps kind of tell the tale of time. And you can almost track the history of our world, the United States, through the history of horse racing. And I think that for somebody like me who's as big of a sports fan as I am a history fan, horse racing, like baseball, really work in that sense of being able to help me kind of track the history of time through the events of the sport. Now let's shift from a full field sport to one of the most personal pressure sports that you can imagine. That's number 6, and we're talking the sport of tennis. The game is Let's Play Tennis by Play Games. Tennis is globally huge. Tabletop tennis, though, still feels like oddly kind of niche, right? Probably because people just assume it's going to be a little too granular. It is very easy to imagine a tennis game being very boring. I got to roll for the serve, roll for the return, roll for the, the neck, the volley, all that kind of stuff. But Let's Play Tennis really works because it does a few things. First, it's really probably the best tennis game right now that captures that kind of rhythm and momentum. You feel the pressure points, you can feel the runs that people go on, and you can also feel that kind of late set tension without turning it into homework. Because it's a sandbox game and gives you the ability to go to almost point by point or play it out like set by set, you can really dial in and dial out throughout your match or matches, if you're playing an entire tournament, to really feel like you can do just about anything you want to do. You want to do a classic matchup between two players? Go for it. Play it point by point. Maybe you want to play like a small tournament. Maybe you want to start at the semis and work your way. Great. You can dial it up just a little bit looser. Or maybe you want to play like the entire tournament and it has a tournament mode that you can use to really narrow down the field to just those final few matches. So it really works well as a sandbox game to offer you just about everything that you're looking for. Who's this game for? Those people who really have it's really a fantastic solo sport game. It's clean, it's focused, it's naturally story driven. I would also highly recommend that you invest in getting the fast action cards that were created by Al Wilson for the game. To me, there's a lot of dice rolling that can be involved, especially if you want to play more of the point by point version. The fast action cards just make the game move a little bit smoother. And if tennis is pressure and silence, then number 5 is pressure with consequences. At number 5, we've got the sport of boxing, represented here by Legends of Boxing by Stone Mountain Press. Boxing is just drama by design, right? You've got people with different styles, you've got different momentum, you have to start to factor in your fatigue, and then there's those sudden shifts that just change everything. This game works because a great boxing game needs to tell the fight story. You need to know who's getting off to a hot start, who has those late rallies, and what's that one round where the whole script flips. I also really like Legends of Boxing because, again, it offers a wide range of historical boxers that you can have from all different weight classes. And it also has the career campaign guide that allows you to create your own kind of boxing universe as well. So you can kind of flip between the simulation and the fantasy in a sense and play it either way. So this game really hits on both notes really well. There's just enough of an abstraction here that you don't feel like you're just rolling out a round and then finding out who won the round. You actually get into the moments, but you're also not rolling like punch by punch here. You have a little bit of an abstraction. So there's a number of rolls per round to help you see how the round kind of unfolds. And you can start to see that, the buildup when a big hit happens, if somebody gets a knockdown or if they just stun their opponent, like all those things take place in Legends of Boxing. So I think it works really well there. And if you really love that kind of like head-to-head tension and big moment sports narratives, I think it can work. And I haven't actually played it head-to-head, but I think this would be a great like head-to-head game as well to see how that would play out too. I think you could do it, even though it works the same way pretty much as playing solo. All right. From that real fight drama, let's now go to the sport where storytelling is the point. And sure enough, we're going to number 4. We're talking professional wrestling. And I'm going to be talking about the Squared Circle by S.T. Patrick. So wrestling's kind of in its own category. Yeah, I think you can call it a sport. I think it's classified as a sport, but it's sports entertainment, right? It's really about the storytelling. And it's that creative engine that's all in one. They're athletes. They have amazing athletic abilities, but everything that they're writing is pretty much scripted. This game works, though, because it gives you all the tools to run the cards and then let the outcomes kind of spark the storylines, right? You get to be the promoter. You get to be in promoter mode, have that fun, but not feel that you still have some friction that will take place there. And so if you like being the creative force behind like a territory, managing the roster, the ongoing angles, this is a really good toolbox for you. I personally like a lot of the different territories. I tend to, with the Squared Circle, lean towards the territories that I'm familiar with, which is going to be the Northeast, the WUF, the New York territories. And the most recent one with the Classic New York is one that is kind of interesting to me because it's got some of the wrestlers that I know, but it's before it really became much more like TV oriented. So I got a few of those wrestlers and I get to see some of the guys that I knew, guys like Andre the Giant, and now I get to see them more in their prime because really when I got introduced to wrestling, they were starting to move towards the tail end of their careers there. So the Squared Circle, probably, there's a lot of good wrestling games that do the storytelling part, but this is the one that really does the best job of letting those kind of wrestlers show up the way that you would expect them to show up. Now, if wrestling is story first, our number 3 is all about speed, risk, and surviving the day. And number 3, we are talking stock car racing, and we're going to go to Red, White, and Blue Racing by Play Games. I mean, racing looks complicated from the outside, right? There are lots of cars. These events are long. There are all these constant variables. And if you're going to have a really good design game here, it has to be something that is easy to play, but still brings that tension. And I think that Red, White, and Blue Racing probably does that really well. It captures the season feel, right? You get that fact that like consistency is going to matter. You also can get the idea that one bad day is going to hurt you, and then that points chase kind of makes every finish meaningful. And sure, you can play out a season, but you can also just, run that race. And again, this can work really well with a fictional set, or it can work really well with the actual stock car, pro seasons. And both are offered by Play. You can go with their Scram, they're fictional, or you can go with the pro seasons. And both will capture that drama in the same way. I really love this game because I think of all the games on this list, this is one that so often I hear people fall in love with or really become a fan of the sport because of this game, more than they come to this game because they're a fan of the sport. But I've also heard from people who are fans of the sport who feel like this game really does do a good job of also capturing the feel of stock car racing in a good way. So if you love seeing how people are moving through the standings during a race, if you love the fact that people can have those rivalries and they can start to have those feuds, and even if you do like the idea of like putting together a season and being able to track that, this game's for you. I think you're gonna find it really enjoyable, built perfectly for solo play too. So let's now go from American Speed to the world's game, done in a way that makes it kind of sing on the tabletop. And that's at number 2. We're talking the sport of soccer, and we're going to look at Soccer Blast by Play Games. Soccer is easily the world's most popular sport, and still it feels underrated when we have our tabletop conversations, especially in the United States. Soccer Blast does a great job of just capturing the flow, the pressure, and that constant tension where kind of one moment decides everything. If you're into solo or even group play, I guess, this is an easy table game, easy to teach, and full of all those kind of like hold your breath moments. The Blast engine, as we mentioned earlier, does a fantastic job of doing that. And I feel like it really shines in Soccer Blast, where you're only talking about a couple of goals that are going to be scored during the game. It sets up those moments when there's a scoring opportunity and you really are just kind of waiting to see, like, is this one going to make it through the goalie? Is this guy going to be able to bend that shot the right way? Is this set play going to, connect when we need it to? Blast Engine does such a good job of setting up, allowing the strong teams to show up well. It also sets up one-on-one matchups to make sure that those top players can find their way. Maybe they get the right matchup and they can take on the weaker opponent on the other team, or maybe they have to try to outduel the best guy on the other team. It does both of those really well. So I feel like, as somebody who used to coach soccer, like this is one of the games that I really feel like allows soccer to show up on the tabletop the way that I would expect it to. And that's why I also chose the full play version over the express version for this particular list, is because I feel like the full version does a much better job of making me feel like I can see a soccer game unfolding in front of me. Now, we're up to the closer. My number 1, the game that best represents really what this whole episode is about. Because at number 1, we have the sport of golf, and we have the game History Maker Golf by Play Games. Here we have the perfect blend. We have a sport that probably exists right outside the top 4. It's very popular. Every weekend it can be found on TV. It has those huge moments during the year, from things like the Masters to the US Open to the British Open. You have your big moments that are part of every annual headline list. You've got your majors, right? You got your Sunday charges, your heartbreak, your hero shots. Golf is a popular game, but to have it really represented well, you need to have a really good game with awesome mechanics. And that's where History Maker Golf comes into. It really is kind of genius how this game moves it from, the ability to quickly simulate, if you decide to play a tournament, quickly simulate those first 3 days of the tournament and whittle down the field to just those final pairings that you want to see on the leaderboard. They'll have realistic scores. And then you get to zoom into those featured shot moments in the final round. So it really does feel like you're watching the broadcast happen on your tabletop. I'm always amazed when I sit down to see how those player cards work along with the course cards to really give you a feel of how players are performing throughout their match. And you can see people who get like a lucky run and they start to put together a pretty impressive round that you weren't expecting. And you can see like those top golfers that just have some bad luck and things start to unravel in front of them. All of those things happen when you're sitting there playing History Maker Golf. So I think it's not only a super popular sport, probably one of the most popular sports on our list of underrated sports, but it also happens to be an outstanding game that is probably can sit right there at the top with just about any other game design that is out there. So whether you I should also mention too, right? This is a game that is great solo. But if you've ever been to play.com and you've ever had an opportunity to sit and play in the play.com open, this game also really works in a group setting too. And it's been tested through years of community play. So that's it. And if you've ever watched a Sunday leaderboard and thought, man, I would love to be able to run this, then History Maker Golf is the game that nails that feeling. All right, let's come back and wrap up today's episode. So that's the countdown. And if one of these made you think, wait, that sport could actually be fun on my tabletop, then mission accomplished. If you enjoyed the episode, the easiest way to support the show is to share it with a friend, leave a quick rating or review, and send me your own underrated pick, because I'm always looking for games that deserve more table time. In fact, if you've got your own top 10 list, send it to me, because I would love to actually follow this up at a later date with a kind of culminating episode that says, I gave you my top 10. Let's hear from everybody now what your top 10 was too. And we'll put together another episode down the road and share what the community thought was its top 10 games that are underrated. As always, you can follow the show and keep up with what's happening on my tabletop on Facebook.com/Tabletop SportCast. When you hit the page, if you're not a follower already, follow the page and keep up with the latest from my tabletop. I usually share a few times during the week. If you'd like to send me an email, tell me your top 10 list, talk about any of the episodes, including today's, you can do that by sending me an email to tabletopsportcast@gmail.com. And lastly, if you'd like to help support the podcast, head on over to patreon.com/Tabletop SportCast, where $1 a week, $1 a month, I should say, really goes a long way to helping to offset costs for the podcast. I recently ran a contest for people who are Patreon subscribers. I ended up buying an extra set of the 1956 Major League Baseball season for History Maker Baseball. It was one of those holiday sale purchases where I'm like, oh, this would be a really great set to have. And I should have known that because I already owned it. But it was an awesome opportunity to kind of give back to some of my Patreons. So we ran a little contest, and Blake Wilson was the lucky winner of the 1956 set. I'll probably run some other contests throughout the year, and I'm always offering free content as well as I put together things like tournament brackets or card sets. It's been a couple of weeks since I offered something new, but that's something always worth checking out as well. Next week, we're going to have a little earlier episode. I've actually got some time away coming up, so I'm going to post a little early. I'm posting this one a little early. My next episode will post a little early. But luckily, I've already have an interview ready to go because next week, I'll be joined by Al Wilson. Not only the creator of 3D6 Gaming, but my new partner on the Play Nation podcast. And we're going to talk all about the latest fantasy draft expansion from 3D6 Gaming for Fast Drive Football. But until then, thanks for listening.